And it's Gordo here from Gordo's Games, and we're back for some more Digimon TCG. Today it's another deck profile. EX3 is on the horizon. The army is nearby. D-Brigade, the main one, the main boys. Literally, this deck has never died yet. It's gone to a point where it was a rogue pick, and it's just a consistent deck. It does what it needs to do. And I think that even now it's got even more support. It's changed up its playstyle a little bit, but its playstyle generally seems to be even stronger than it was before from testing. So here's my take on it. Here's what I've been working with, and it's generally done well so far. I played into a couple matchups. I played against the new Imperial Digimon, and it was a really janky game where they went off, and then I went off, and I was like, oh, I can't take the game. But out of nowhere, it's that rush you get from the new Seals Digimon, the Dark Digimon restand, all that kind of stuff that goes with it. It's just there's so many tools in this deck. But let's not rabbit on. Let's get into it. So eggs, 4 Missimon. I was going to run Pagu in this one for more cycle because the deck dies a lot. But if you do manage to keep a board, the reboot can come up massively just to try and keep some pressure on, because the fact if you've got commands that are sticking to the board, able to swing next turn, it's something they're going to have to deal with. Depends on how much blue flare is a big thing in this upcoming meta, which I think it will be. But if we don't stick to the board, if it's one of those where blue flare is a thing and we just want to get as much draw power as possible, and we don't actually care about staying alive, then I'll probably switch to Pagu. But I think at this point with everything else, it's came up quite a lot, to be honest. So the Missimon's been working. Rookie lineup, we run 18 rookies here. 4 of the 2 costs, because having 2 costs to potentially try and choke at some points it can be crucial, because some decks just can't thrive off just being given 1 memory every turn whilst you're just constantly poking with little rookies. So the rookie rush style still sticks in some capacity, but you have the ability to flex up into the taller stack. We run 4 of the rare Commander one because it's amazing. If it gets deleted, by any means, play out 3. Reveal the top 3 cards of your deck. You may play 1 Commander one among them without paying its memory costs. Then place the remaining cards at the bottom of your deck in any order. So it just really allows you to keep cycling your Commander ones and keep that pressure on. So even if this dies, it plays out another one. And then if more and more D-Brigade gets in trash, the more it makes life for our other plays later on. Run 4 of the blocker, because stop and poke damage can be quite crucial in your matchups against Security Tron, things like that. These kind of things help just to slow down their chip damage, and you don't really deck out because you can constantly just put things back into your deck. So you can play with that kind of longevity with these blockers, just taking the brunt of all that. Run 3 of the decoy D-Brigade. We don't tend to keep as wide a board because we're aiming to swing with these as much as possible, especially with them given a rush. So this is probably the least relevant one, but it can come up. Just being able to potentially protect the Commander one, so if you need to protect your blocker to stop them from attacking for game or something, anything along those lines, it can come up. But we run 3 of it. We run 3 of the starter Commander one. It's a 5k body. If depending on how things go, this could become 2 and this could become a 4 of. I haven't really seen much of a difference between the 2 of them, to be honest, but it's one of those. The 5k body hasn't done much for me, neither's the decoy, so they're sat at a 3-3. I'd say that flexes depending on your own little meta, if you think decoy is going to pay off you enough. Going into the level 4s, we run a total of 10. So we run 4 and 4 of the Seals Digimon. Blocker allows us to stop some overall chip damage. This is our aggression Seals Digimon. This is the one you want to see every single time. If I could run 8 copies of it, I would run 8 copies, and this would never see the light of day. But you know, it helps to slow down those those rookie rush kind of style decks, those low to the ground things. The reason this is so good is not only because it has jamming as a level 4, so it means it's going to stick to the board, and then if you've got the reboot underneath it, it can just reboot as long as you've got another Commander one out, which can really put the pressure on your opponent because they have to either deal with it or it just accepts it's going to keep chipping away at them and they can't do anything about it. But inheritable, your turn, once per turn, when you play another Digimon with D-Brigade in its traits, it gains rush for the turn. That can be absolutely massive when it gets to our later plays, which I'll go through. It's just with this style of deck, it's an amazing inheritable. So yeah, that's just, I'm not going to keep going on about it, it's just one of the best cards in the deck. We run 2 Digimon. Now the reason being, not only is it a blocker, so it allows us not further chip damage, but we run a deck full of cyborgs and machines, so we can use it to cycle more and more cards, because we can get to a point, because we throw out rookies so often, that we're not cycling enough cards. So having this then going up into, for instance, the Tankdramon, being able to swing, trash something from hand, draw 2 cards, can be quite crucial. Moving on from that, we have the Tankdramon. This Tankdramon is amazing. So when Digivolve and reveal the top 3 cards of your deck, you may play one Digimon card with D-Brigade in its traits and a play cost of 5 or less among them without paying its memory cost, trash the rest. So it hits both Sealsdramon. So you can potentially play out a block, or you could play out the jamming seals, otherwise you play out every other command that's in the deck. And obviously if you have the right seals underneath it, they gain rush as well. So yeah, it can be pretty nutty, and especially if you play out the seals off of the Tankdramon, that has rush, you can swing, it's got jamming, you go into another Tankdramon and obviously may pass turn, but it plays out something else. If it hits a blocker, great times, and you're in for a very good time overall. You've gone wide and you've done a lot of aggressive pushes. Most of the time you don't end up swinging with the Tankdramon because you don't need to, and the reason being is because Inheritable is too good as well. Once per turn, when one of your Digimon with D-Brigade in its traits attack, reveal the top 2 cards of your deck. You may play one Commandramon among them without paying its play cost and trash the rest. So it allows us to trash, so it fills up for the trash for our Darkdramon plays. But the great part is it's when one of your Digimon with D-Brigade in its traits attack. So it's not even specifically this stack, but we do get the reveal and play. So if you get the Dream lineup, which is the Sealsdramon here, and then go into and you got the Tankdramon, you swing with some like the Sealsdramon, it triggers the effect of this reveal. That'll have rush. If idealistically every stack we want to see is going to be this into this, and we want this to be revealing things like this or this, for instance. Because the more of these you see off the back of it, the more things you've just got attack and rush, and it just becomes a little bit insane. But moving into the top end of things here, so we run 2 of the OG Digimon because it can be just a 3 play cost that has rush. It allows us to cycle back cards into the deck. So if we haven't seen some of the new Digimons, or if we've run out of Tankdramons, we have ways and means to put them back into the deck. So it's generally a good card. It's not the main piece anymore because this one does take the precedence for it. And I am only running 3 of because I do think you still play more into the rookie rush kind of play style and have some removal pieces on hand. The removal pieces I'm probably 50-50 with, because there's so many ways you can play this deck and build it. So I'm not completely sold on those as of yet from testing, but they have come up some of the cards. But this one, the main person. When you would Digivolve into this card, you may return up to 5 cards with D-Brigade in their traits from your trash to the top of your deck, to reduce the Digivolution cost by 1 for each card returned in this way. So 9 times out of 10 you're going to have 5 D-Brigade in trash, which means this becomes a free Evo. That's insane for a level 6. Like, with what this does and what this deck does, being able to go into a free level 6 and then get the Inheritables of Tankdramon afterwards and the Sealsdramon that are in there as well is done. But we're not finished there yet. Your turn, once per turn, when you play another Digimon with D-Brigade in its traits, delete one of your opponent's Digimon with a play cost less than or equal to the Digimon you played and unsuspend this Digimon. So we can trigger, if we do the whole triggering of Tankdramon, we play out something that's of same play cost as one of your opponent's Digimon, we can look to delete it, and then we unsuspend this. So this can be a double swinger on occasions. And with the rest of the little rookies attacked at once, you can technically, depending on how what the players you get, you could look to take your opponent out in 1 to 2 turns easily. It's just getting that initial setup. So this card's amazing. It's a great little change of pace for D-Brigade, because instead of it just being the whole low to the ground, just throw everything you can at them, you can play into this builded stack, and the deck just goes burr, basically. Level 7s, it's just pretty realistic. Death X. I could try and say putting the Zwarts and that to go wide on the board, or all these different kind of things, but Death X. I mean, this deck doesn't like the Death X itself, but it generally does like having access to it on its side as well, because it can just change the pace of things massively. I played one matchup against 4 Great Dragons, where they kept they basically didn't seal the pieces, but they went into the Gatomon, went into the Angelwoman and sat there in like 2 or 3 Angelwomans and a Gatomons underneath. I played this and I de-digivolved and deleted the board, which losing those Gatomons is pretty harsh, especially with Call being only a one of now. So you're gonna have to rely on things like the mat and things like Darkness Wave and that to add things back potentially. So just a generally good card. Options wise, we are running a total of 5 options and 6 tamers. So we run Ultimate Flare. If it goes on security, it can potentially mess up boards entirely, because there are things like the new Imperial which do DNA Digivolve, which means that you can get them back down to level 3. There are things like Machine Demon still, so being able to stop them in their tracks by taking them down to just being a level 5. Don't get me wrong, now that they have the Chaos Run, which you can go back on top of that stack of level 5s, it can be a pain to deal with, but it's going to help slow them down at least. One of Pride Memory Boost. Honestly, like I said, I'm not completely sold on the option line of things. Yes, so far these have paid off for me, and they've just been more tech pieces than anything, because the rest of the deck has been doing the work. So we do run a 1 Pride Memory Boost just to try and cycle a few cards, get one trash some things and have some memory gain later on. 1 of Kongu, just to just to slow down some of the aggression, because you are going to see the mirrors quite often, I think, and just being able to slow them down, because their level 5 is a 7 cost as well, so you can stop them up until they get to level 6 with this. So just a one off. If it comes up, it comes up. One of the new things from EX03 is Laser Cannon. This is particularly a good card. I do like the way this plays. Digivolve one of your opponent's Digimon, trash one top, we know all that part, then delete one of your opponent's Digimon with a play cost of 5 or less. Just think Dark Knightmon, just for basically 1 cost more technically. That's literally it is. It's incorporated the Dark Knightmon deck into a card and given black access to it, which can be an absolute pain. So if you're up against Black War Grade, if they've sat there with a BT Metal Grade and they've DD12 delete some of your board, use this to delete the grade underneath, because that's a 5 play cost, and that can really put them behind them. Run 2 Izzies. It's Hammer, Spark and Security. It lets you get a bit of visibility. I think there's flexibility which one you use here, because the fact of we now have a level 6 we can go into. We can run things like the Hero if needed to give a Darkmon the little buff, because technically we have no buffs in this deck, so it is a flat 12k, which means it can die in checks quite easily. So that this could be a flex spot. Kazu, I don't think you can flex on. 4 of, you might be able to flex, you might be able to tailor it down a bit, but I think this card puts in so much work. If you don't have this and you do have these things to hand, or these things on board should I say, if you got 2 on board, the commands on in, raise out, you go to 3 at the very least. Stops you from being choked, allows you to cycle cards, because it has when one of your Digimon Cyborg Machine and its traits becomes suspended, you may suspend this tamer to draw 1 card. Now that does also mean that's all turns, so it does mean even if you weren't able to swing on your turn, let's say for example you sat there with a Guardian, you block, you can still suspend it to draw on trash, because it is an all turns and it's only for suspend, it's not for attacking. So great card, really helps you on the memory front overall, so highly recommended. But that is D-Brigade. I generally think this deck has got a good place going into the next format. It's got a different kind of play style. There are some cards that just out it, but you've got to bank on avoiding those, or just be quick enough to get to the point you need to, because you don't always retain a large board for them. So being able to just swing and clear the board before Death X can get dropped usually puts you in a good enough place where it's not that relevant to you. But it's when you start surviving, it's just like, okay, just cleared the entire board, that's the problem. But that is D-Brigade. If you do like the deck, if you do decide to try it out, by all means leave me some comments below to let me know how you got on, if you have any recommendations for the deck going forward. This is my first iteration for it, and I've been testing it for a little bit so far, and it's still well in testing. It's generally a very fun place that I highly recommended. But if you do like the content, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell for notifications so you know when this content goes live for you. And overall, thanks for tuning to Gordo's Games today.